Hi, I'm Liam. To be honest, I don't just love money. I love the freedom it buys. I'm here to help you stop trading your life for a paycheck and start building a foundation that actually lasts. Look, let's be real for a second. You've probably spent the last 3 years checking your bank account every Tuesday, hoping for some kind of miracle, only to realize that after the rent, the car insurance, and that overpriced artisan coffee you bought because you had a rough morning, you're essentially running on a treadmill that's moving slightly faster than you are. You've got maybe $4,000 sitting there, and it feels like a stagnant pond. It's not growing, it's not shrinking, it's just existing. And you're told to invest. But when you put 500 bucks into the market and it goes up by 3%, you make $15. $15. That's not a wealth strategy. That's a Chipotle bowl without the guac. It feels pointless, right? Here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody in the hustle culture space wants to admit. The first $20,000 is the absolute worst part of your financial life. It is a grueling, uphill slog where the math is actively working against you. But if you can cross that invisible line, something strange happens. The physics of money actually change. Most people are stuck in what I call the survival loop. And honestly, it's not your fault, but it is your problem. We've been fed this lie that compound interest is this magical fairy that makes you rich while you sleep. But here's the cold, hard reality. Compound interest is a joke when you have no capital. If you have $1,000 and it grows at a respectable 7%, you've made $70 in a year. You can't even buy a decent pair of shoes with that. You're not investing at that point. You're just saving with extra steps. The reason $20,000 is the point of no return is because of a psychological and mathematical phenomenon called capital gravity. Think of your money like a snowball. When it's the size of a marble, you're pushing it through the snow and it's barely picking anything up. You're doing 99% of the work. But once that ball hits a certain mass, and for most people in today's economy, that mass is 20 grand, it starts to develop its own momentum. I remember talking to a guy who had been saving for 5 years. He was frustrated because he felt like he was sacrificing his youth for nothing. He had $12,000. He said, "Liam, I could lose this in one bad month. Why bother?" And I told him, "Look, you're in the death valley of finance. This is where most people quit and buy a jet ski on credit because they think they'll never be rich anyway. But the math shows us that the gap between $0 and $20,000 is actually harder to bridge than the gap between $100,000 and $500,000. Why? Because when you have nothing, you are trading your life force, your hours, your sweat, your sanity for every single cent. But once you hit that $20,000 mark, your money starts to earn enough to cover its own maintenance. At a standard return, that $20,000 is generating $1,400 to $2,000 a year without you lifting a finger. That is a free month of rent. That is a car payment. That is your money finally showing up for work instead of just sitting on the couch eating your snacks. The problem is that we live in a world designed to keep you at zero. Think about it. Everything is a subscription. Everything is buy now, pay later. We are being psychologically harvested. There's a shocking statistic from the Federal Reserve that says nearly 40% of Americans couldn't cover a $400 emergency with cash. If you are in that 40%, you aren't playing the game of wealth. You're playing the game of, please don't let my transmission blow up. You are one flat tire away from financial ruin. That's a stressful way to live, and it's hard to make smart, long-term decisions when you're in survival mode. Your brain literally loses IQ points when you're stressed about money. So the first goal isn't wealth, it's escape velocity. You need to get enough fuel in the tank to break free from the gravity of poverty. Now, here is where it gets interesting. Once you hit $20,000, your behavior changes. This is the surprising reveal that no one talks about. It's not just the interest, it's the confidence. When you have 20 grand in the bank, you walk differently. You negotiate differently. If your boss treats you like garbage, you don't have to take it because you have forget you money. Not retire forever money, but I can survive for 6 months while I find something better money. That leverage is worth more than the interest itself. It allows you to take calculated risks. It allows you to buy assets when they're on sale instead of being forced to sell your own stuff when things get tight. You move from being a consumer to being a predator in the market. You're looking for opportunities because you actually have the ammunition to shoot at them. So, how do you actually get there without losing your mind? You have to stop treating your savings like a leftovers pile. Most people pay their landlord, the grocery store, and Netflix, and then they save whatever is left at the end of the month. Newsflash. There is never anything left. You have to treat your $20,000 goal like a debt you owe to your future self. It's a non-negotiable bill. And you have to realize that in this initial phase, your savings rate is infinitely more important than your investment return. If you have $5,000 and you're obsessed with finding the next crypto coin that's going to 10 times, you're an idiot. Even if you double your money, you only have $10,000. You're still in the danger zone. You'd be much better off picking up a side hustle or cutting your expenses to save an extra $5,000. In the beginning, you are the engine. You can't rely on the market to do the heavy lifting for you yet. Think of it like a plane taking off. A Boeing 747 uses a massive percentage of its fuel just to get down the runway and into the air. Once it's at 30,000 feet, it can throttle back and glide. You are currently on the runway, and you're trying to throttle back before you've even cleared the fence. No wonder you're crashing. You have to keep the floor to the floor until you hit that $20,000 altitude. Once you're there, the physics shift. You'll notice that your account grows by $1,000 and you'll realize, wait, I didn't work for that. That just happened. That is the most addictive feeling in the world. It's the moment you realize the system can actually work for you instead of against you. But look, I'm not saying it's easy. It sucks. It means saying no to things that your friends are saying yes to. It means being the boring one for a year or two. But the alternative is being the stressed one for the next 40 years. Which one sounds worse? The point of no return is where you stop being a victim of the economy and start being a participant in it. It's where the math flips. It's where your money finally starts working itself, and you can finally catch your breath. So here's my challenge to you. Stop looking at the 30-year horizon for a minute. Stop worrying about retirement. Just get to 20. Do whatever it takes. Sell the stuff in your garage, work the extra shifts, stop eating out at places where you have to tip 25% for someone to hand you a bag. Get to that $20,000 mark and watch how the world opens up for you. Because once you cross that line, you aren't just saving money anymore. You're building a machine. And that machine doesn't get tired. It doesn't take vacations and it doesn't stop growing.